This is the digital channel of the General Overseas Service of All India Radio. I am Manoj Mainkar, and in the next half hour, I'll bring to you news updates from India and around the world, awareness videos on coronavirus by Government of India, yoga on radio, and a lot more. We'll begin with the news updates.
This is the General Overseas Service of All India Radio. The news read by Maria Albina Michael. A riot erupted at a prison in central Venezuela on Friday, leaving about 20 casualties, including a National Guard officer who was wounded by an explosion and the warden who suffered a knife wound, authorities said. Officials indicated there were some deaths but gave no figures. The violence at the Llanos Penitentiary Center resulted in an armed confrontation between inmates and guards, the Associated Press said. It was unclear what sparked the violent unrest. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced an immediate ban on Friday on the sale and use of assault-style weapons in Canada, 2 weeks after a gunman killed 22 people in Nova Scotia. Trudeau cited numerous mass shootings in the country, including the rampage that killed 22 in Nova Scotia on 18th and 19th April. He announced the ban of over 1,500 models and variants of assault-style firearms, including 2 guns used by the gunman, as well as the AR-15 and other weapons that have been used in a number of mass shootings in the United States. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un made his first public appearance in 20 days as he celebrated the completion of a fertilizer factory near Pyongyang, state media said on Saturday, ending an absence that had triggered global rumors that he may be seriously ill. The North's official Korean Central News Agency reported that Kim attended the ceremony Friday in Suncheon, with other senior officials, including his sister Kim Yo-jong, who many analysts predict would take over if her brother is suddenly unable to rule. The official Rodong Sinmun newspaper published several photos of Kim wearing black and smiling as he looked around the factory and cut a red ribbon, his sister looking from behind. Sri Lankan President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has ruled out reconvening of the dissolved parliament. This was stated in his response to a letter by several opposition parties calling for reconvening of parliament as the election scheduled for 25th April was postponed in the wake of COVID-19 crisis. The Sri Lankan parliament was dissolved by the president on 2nd of March and the new parliament was stipulated to meet before 2nd June as per the article. However, the government believes Article 70 cannot be adhered to in view of extraordinary situation out of COVID crisis. Personalities from the field of entertainment and sports have come together for a digital concert to be held on 3rd May to raise funds for the frontline workers who are working round the clock to contain the coronavirus pandemic. Facebook has collaborated with some of the biggest names in Indian entertainment to put together a home-to-home fundraiser concert, I for India. All the proceeds from the fundraiser concert will go to the India COVID Response Fund managed by Give India to support on-ground relief efforts. The 4-hour-long concert will be live globally on Facebook on 3rd May and will feature performances and personal messages from over 85 Indian and global stars. Home Ministry has allowed the use of trains to ferry people stranded due to the lockdown. The ministry has revised the order saying the movement of migrant workers, pilgrims, tourists, students and other persons stranded at different places is allowed by special trains to be operated by Railway Ministry. The order said Ministry of Railway will designate nodal officer for coordinating with states and union territories for their movement. Railway Ministry will issue detailed guidelines for sale of tickets, social distancing and other safety measures to be observed at train stations, platforms and within the trains. A total of 35,043 COVID-19 cases have been reported in the country so far. As per the Health Ministry officials, 9,064 patients have recovered and discharged from the hospitals, while 1,152 patients have died. Briefing media in New Delhi on Friday, a Health Ministry official said recovery rate has improved to above 25% in 14 days, which is a positive sign. Just over 25,000 people are under medical supervision. He said state and district administration should ensure through focused efforts that red and orange zone districts break the chain of transmission through effective and stringent containment measures. The Health Ministry official said simple actions such as hand hygiene, respiratory hygiene, environmental hygiene and physical distancing can go a long way in preventing the spread of this disease. Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Friday held a detailed meeting on the power sector and took stock of the impact of COVID-19. He also discussed various long-term reforms for enhancing sustainability, resilience and efficiency of the sector. The discussions included measures regarding ease of doing business, propagation of renewables, flexibility in supply of coal, role of public-private partnerships, and boosting investment in the power sector. Mr. Modi emphasized the significance of the power sector in propelling the economy. The need for effective enforcement of contracts for attracting private investments was also discussed. The Prime Minister stressed the importance of consumer centricity and directed to work towards the goal of supplying 24/7 quality and reliable power to all consumers. The centre on Friday decided to extend the ongoing lockdown by 2 weeks from 4th of this month. The Ministry of Home Affairs issued an order under the Disaster Management Act 2005 to further extend the lockdown. Home Ministry said the decision has been taken after a comprehensive review of the COVID-19 situation. The ministry also issued new guidelines to regulate different activities in this period based on the risk profiling of the districts of the country into red, green and orange zones. The guidelines have permitted considerable relaxations in the districts falling in the green and orange zones. The green zones will be districts with either 0 confirmed cases till date or no confirmed case in the last 21 days. The classification of districts as red zones will take into account the total number of active cases, doubling rate of confirmed cases, extent of testing and surveillance feedback from the districts. Those districts which are neither defined as red nor green shall be classified as orange zones. And that is the end of this news bulletin.
Radio is an intimate storytelling medium, and when it bonds with one of the finest storytellers of our times, the result is sheer magic. During these times of social distancing, All India Radio hopes to bring you some comfort, some connection, with an exclusive story reading series, Bonding over the Radio. Coming up is the pick of the day, voiced by the author Ruskin Bond himself. The title of the story is
Grandfather Fights an Ostrich. Before my grandfather joined the Indian Railways, he worked for a few years on the East African Railway, and it was during that period that he had his now famous encounter with the ostrich. My childhood was frequently enlivened by this oft-told tale of his, and I give it here in his own words, or as well as I can remember them. While engaged in the laying of a new railway line, I had a miraculous escape from an awful death. I lived in a small township, but my work lay some 12 miles away, and I had to go to the work site and back on horseback. One day my horse had a slight accident, so I decided to do the journey on foot, being a great walker in those days. I also knew of a shortcut through the hills that would save me about 6 miles. This shortcut went through an ostrich farm, or camp as it was called. It was the breeding season. I was fairly familiar with the ways of ostriches and knew that male birds were very aggressive in the breeding season, ready to attack on the slightest provocation. But I also knew that my dog would scare away any bird that might try to attack me. Strange though it may seem, even the biggest ostrich, and some of them grow to a height of 9 feet, will run faster than a racehorse at the sight of even a small dog. So I felt quite safe in the company of my dog, a mongrel who had adopted me some 2 months previously. On arrival at the ostrich camp, I climbed through the wire fencing and, keeping a good lookout, dodged across the open spaces between the thorn bushes. Now and then I caught a glimpse of the birds feeding some distance away. I had gone about half a mile from the fencing when up started a hare. In an instant my dog gave chase. I tried calling him back, even though I knew it was hopeless. Chasing hares was that dog's passion. I don't know whether it was the dog's bark or my own shouting, but what I was most anxious to avoid immediately happened. The ostriches were startled and began darting to and fro. Suddenly I saw a big male bird emerge from a thicket about 100 yards away. He stood still and stared at me for a few moments. I stared back. Then, expanding his short wings and with his tail erect, he came bounding towards me. As I had nothing, not even a stick with which to defend myself, I turned and ran towards the fence. But it was an unequal race. What were my steps of 2 or 3 feet against the creature's great strides of 16 to 20 feet? There was only one hope: to get behind a large bush and try to elude the bird until help came. A dodging game was my only chance, and so I rushed for the nearest clump of thorn bushes and waited for my pursuer. The great bird wasted no time. He was immediately upon me. Then the strangest encounter took place. I dodged this way and that, taking great care not to get directly in front of the ostrich's deadly kick. Ostriches kick forward, and with such terrific force that if you were struck, their huge chisel-like nails would cause much damage. I was breathless and really quite helpless, calling wildly for help as I circled the thorn bush. My strength was ebbing. How much longer could I keep going? I was ready to drop with exhaustion. As if aware of my condition, the infuriated bird suddenly doubled back on his course and charged straight at me. With a desperate effort, I managed to step to one side. I don't know how, but I found myself holding on to one of the creature's wings, quite close to its body. It was now the ostrich's turn to be frightened. He began to turn, or rather waltz, moving round and round so quickly that my feet were soon swinging out from his body, almost horizontally. All the while the ostrich kept opening and shutting his beak with loud snaps. Imagine my situation as I clung desperately to the wing of the enraged bird. He was whirling me round and round as though he were a discus thrower, and I the discus. My arms soon began to ache with the strain, and the swift and continuous circling was making me dizzy. But I knew that if I relaxed my hold even for a second, a terrible fate awaited me. Round and round we went in a great circle, It seemed as if that spiteful bird would never tire, and I knew I could not hold on much longer. Suddenly, the ostrich went into reverse. This unexpected move made me lose my hold and sent me sprawling to the ground. I landed in a heap near the thorn bush. In an instant, before I had time to realize what had happened, the big bird was upon me. I thought the end had come. Instinctively, I raised my hands to protect my face. But the ostrich did not strike. I moved my hands from my face, and there stood the creature with one foot raised, ready to deliver a deadly kick. I couldn't move. Was the bird going to play cat and mouse with me and prolong the agony? As I watched, frightened and fascinated, the ostrich turned his head sharply to the left. A second later, he jumped back, turned, and made off as fast as he could go. Dazed, I wondered what had happened to make him beat so unexpected a retreat. I soon found out. To my great joy, I heard the bark of my truant dog, and the next moment he was jumping around me, licking my face and hands. Needless to say, I returned his caresses most affectionately, and I took great care to see that he did not leave my side until we were well clear of that ostrich farm. There.
The story you read today was very visual, almost as if one was watching a film.
I see.
Do you visualize the stories like a film before writing them down? I mean, is it like your craft?
No, you said it in a nutshell. I always do that. Well, in most of my stories, I write them in my head. I sort of visualize the story as you would see a film. So when I sit down to write it, all I have to do is put it into interesting words and sentences and, make it readable. But the story is already written in my head, regardless of whether it's purely fiction or, in this case, based on an actual incident. My grandfather would often tell the story.
Achha, this is a real family story.
Yes, it is. Of course, I had to embellish it a bit.
What was your grandfather's name?
His name was William Henry Clarke. Clarke spelled C-L-E-R-K-E. It was, I think the French spelled it that way.
Okay.
C-L-E-R-K-E. So he was in most of his life in the Indian Railways. He was a carriage maker. In those days, making the compartments, the carriages.
Coaches.
Interesting.
Lovely.
So he never taught me to make a carriage. No, he passed away when I was very small.
What else do you remember about your grandfather? Was he a good raconteur?
This is my maternal grandfather, mother's father. Yes, he's the one who used to tell us these animal stories, because he also kept a large variety of pets. Tomorrow I'll get one of those out.
Right. Thank you so much for your time.
Not at all. I'm enjoying this.
And I'm looking forward to connecting with you tomorrow again.
Okay.
That was storyteller par excellence, Ruskin Bond, reading his hand-picked story of the day in our exclusive series, Bonding over the Radio. Dear listeners, hope you're enjoying listening to these stories as much as we are in bringing them to you. We look forward to your comments on our official Facebook page, Akashvani Features. I repeat, Akashvani Features. You could even leave a question for Ruskin Bond, and we promise to pass them on to him. Do mention a few details about yourself when you write. Ruskin Bond needs no introduction. Much loved by generations for his enduring and inspiring writing, He is an iconic and prolific literatore, honoured with the Padma Bhushan and Sahitya Akademi Awards. Some of his works that have been adapted for film and television series include Junoon, Susanna's Seven Husbands, Saat Khoon Maaf, The Blue Umbrella and Ek Tha Rasti. A presentation of the Central English Features Unit. This came to you from the External Services Division of All India Radio. Up in the hills of Missouri, it is quiet. In these days, very quiet. So what is our favorite storyteller, Ruskin Bond, doing in these times of lockdown? Writing, reading, looking out over the deserted roads, and at 12 noon every day, picking up the phone to read us one of his stories? All India Radio is happy to bring you a selection of enduring and endearing tales read by the eminent author Ruskin Bond himself. Every day, beginning 1st May, live streaming on our mobile app News on Air, channels AIR Live News 24/7, FM Gold Delhi and Indraprasth at 7:10 am and 10:10 pm. Also on the YouTube channel of AIR World Service at 7:30 pm and 9:30 pm. Bonding over the radio.
Hi, this is Shumita again with another program of today. Dear listeners, I would like to remind you that taking care of your mental health is as important as looking after your physical health. To combat with COVID-19, good mental health is very essential. So, I would request you to seek accurate information from legitimate sources like World Health Organization, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, on any other reliable government sources. Try to avoid excessive exposure to media coverage as it may intensify feelings of worry and distress. Focus only to practical steps to protect yourself and loved ones. Connect with your friends and relatives digitally as it may ease the stress caused by COVID-19. Be optimistic as this situation is temporary. So, let's smile and enjoy the song sang by Sharvendu.
है दिल है मुश्किल है जीना यहाँ, आया मौत का सौदागर नाम इसका कोरोना। हा हा हो हे हा हा है दिल है मुश्किल है जीना यहाँ, आया मौत का सौदागर नाम इसका कोरोना। नहीं हिंदू नहीं मुस्लिम नहीं माने क्रिश्चियन, नहीं ज्ञानी नहीं गुनी नहीं माने सज्जन, नहीं हिंदू नहीं मुस्लिम नहीं माने क्रिश्चियन, नहीं ज्ञानी नहीं गुनी नहीं माने सज्जन, किसी का भी नहीं या नाम निशा, यह कोरोना यह कोरोना यह खूनी कोरोना, है दिल है मुश्किल है जीना यहाँ, आया मौत का सौदागर नाम इसका कोरोना। आओ प्रण करे आज हम सब मिलके, हराएंगे सब इसको आज घर में रह के, आओ प्रण करे आज हम सब मिलके, हराएंगे सब इसको आज घर में रह के, सरकार का नहीं कोई दोष यहाँ, यह लॉकडाउन तुम जान जाओ कोरोना, है दिल है मुश्किल है जीना यहाँ, आया मौत का सौदागर नाम इसका कोरोना।
The program is presented by Sumita Datta, concept and produced by Vishwaranjan Chakravarti.
During lockdown in India, many citizens are voluntarily participating in creating awareness and helping the less privileged.
Hello, I am Aditi Bhaduri, a journalist and political analyst. I do columns for different journals and manage a portal, International Affairs Review. So, how am I coping with the lockdown? Well, I do understand the gravity of the situation, having friends in Italy, and I realize that no matter what, this is for my own safety and security. I had in fact been practicing social distancing even before the government announced the lockdown. And ever since, I have ventured out of my house only once, to the ATM. Now, coming to life under lockdown, I have been working from home for some years now. So, this is not a new concept for me, and it has not impacted me adversely. In fact, I have counseled a few of my acquaintances on how to adapt to working from home. Nevertheless, things have become a bit hectic since my helpers are not coming, so I have to manage the home front too. I am blessed as I have a supportive family who have been pitching in very different ways, so all the household chores are being shared. The only challenge for me is taking care of my mother, who is a senior citizen and semi-invalid, but we have been coping all right till now. I have also been getting essential supplies from my neighborhood grocery and market, and I'm grateful to the government and to all the people involved for facilitating all the essential supplies. However, I do miss going out. I long to go out and visit a friend, go to a movie, or just take a walk. My neighborhood has also become very, very quiet. But at the same time, this has helped me to connect with many of my friends who live in different corners of the globe and are also under lockdown. Thanks to the internet, we lighten up each other's moods each day with an endless barrage of jokes, music, inspirational quotes, even information, sharing movies, sharing news, knowing how people in different parts of the world are coping, and that helps me to stay connected. I'm also taking the time out to rejuvenate myself, to relax, to rest, do some meditation, and that is really helping me to keep calm. I know this will be over soon and we will again get back to the hustle and bustle of life. So this is also an opportunity to just concentrate on myself and my immediate family and friends. I understand that there is a larger design to it all, and I'm sure all will be well again. We shall overcome.
This broadcast came to you from the digital channel of the General Overseas Service of All India Radio.